Okay, I think it's time to go live. Dustin, quick sound check. Are you hearing me okay?
Yes, I can hear you fine. Can you hear me, Ben?
Got you absolutely fine. And Captain?
Let's try again. How about now? Can you hear me now?
We've got you. There we go. Fantastic. Fantastic. Well, let's get kick-started then. So, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you're based, and welcome to SimplyVideo's second ever webinar. And this is actually our premiere of our brand new webinar series entitled Uncharted Territory. We're so pleased that you've taken time out of your day today to learn more about remote collaboration in what we're confident to say is actually a world first. This is a world first live remote inspection webinar. So we're going to heavily caveat today's session in that there might be a couple of extraneous variables that creep in, but that's the whole point of this session. We're going to run it as an experiment. So on today's webinar, we will be exploring the possibilities of reducing the costs which are associated with remote inspection using new augmented reality technologies. But more about that later on. For now, I'd like to take the opportunity to introduce myself and the fantastic Dustin Varnell from V2 Subsea. Welcome aboard, Dustin. How are you today?
Doing well, Ben, connecting with me and doing this webinar.
No problem at all.
Over here in Newport, Rhode Island on the Oliver Hazard Perry.
Well, great to have you here today, Dustin, and thank you ever so much for taking time out and all of your preparation that's gone into today's webinar. This is really exciting, and for those of you who aren't aware, we've recently been collaborating, Dustin and I. We're really pleased to present this to you today, and we hope that you get a lot out of the session. So just before we move on, let's cover off a bit of the agenda. So we'll cover off some general introductions so you can learn more about who V2 Subsea are. I'll then give you a quick snapshot as to who we are here at SimplyVideo. And we'll also have an introduction from the captain today as well. I'll give you an introduction to the RealWear HMT-1, which is the piece of hardware that we'll be using, that Dustin will be wearing over in Rhode Island to conduct the remote inspection. And then we're going to talk a little bit about what we're hoping to achieve from today. So I'll present a hypothesis of what Dustin and I have put together and what we believe can be carried out. We'll cover off a little bit about how things are currently done and why there are such appropriate use cases for the technologies that we're using today. I've got a picture of the ship that we're on board today, the absolutely beautiful SSV Oliver Hazard Perry. And we'll introduce you to the captain later on today, who's got some really interesting information to discuss with us regarding some of the initiatives that are being pushed out from the Oliver Hazard Perry currently. Of course, we're all here today to see the live inspection with Dustin Varnell in Rhode Island, and I will be at the far end over in the United Kingdom. So quite an ambitious feat that we're going to be carrying off today. Ultimately, we want to see if the hypothesis that we predicted, we want to see if we can accomplish that and discuss any other findings along the way as well. Towards the end, we will have a Q&A session. So as always, we would like to welcome you to submit your comments through and also to like and subscribe to the SimplyVideo YouTube channel. Okay, let's kick off. So Dustin, if I could pass over to you at this point to maybe give a quick snapshot of V2 Subsea.
On IoT solutions in maritime, under the water, and at the water line and above the water line. We're using the latest technology and partnering with companies in order to really expand the scope of what is possible in the maritime industry. One of the things we've been working on has been discussed is how can we effectively do remote inspection and collaboration using augmented reality for inspections such as classification, flag state, and client inspections, and really be able to get the data to the stakeholders in the maritime industry to improve health and safety and also improve operations. V2 Subsea is working on IoT, which is an acronym for the Internet of Things. So that's wireless technology where normally you would have to run wires and signaling and video workflow automation. We're based in Newport, Rhode Island. And we're really excited about the future and happy to be working with SimplyVideo and using the RealWear platform.
Fantastic. Thanks, Dustin. And we'll be hearing a lot more from Dustin later on today as he carries out the remote inspection aboard the Oliver Hazard Perry. So let me give you a quick introduction as to who we are. So first things first, before I tell you about SimplyVideo, my name is Ben Wright. I am the business development manager over here for SimplyVideo. I've been with the business now for 6 months, having transferred from a number of successful sales and management positions within fast growth SaaS global organizations. I wanted to transfer my experience across as I really feel that the industry that we're a part of here at SimplyVideo and the offering that we have is really quite unique and could take the world by storm. Outside of work, I'm a touring musician for my sins, although I haven't done that for the past 2 years. I'm a keen environmentalist and a lover of all things tech. SimplyVideo is a calling platform that allows you to connect devices such as cross-reality wearables into your remote meetings. SimplyVideo takes way more than just a bunch of heads and shoulders on a screen. This means you can do more remotely than ever before, meaning you have fewer reasons to travel. We offer a number of solutions and integrations from our web-based remote meeting platform, which we've joined using today, streaming out through YouTube, to a full integration into your Teams or Google video stack. For the last 18 months, we've unfortunately become rather accustomed to tedious video meetings, as I mentioned earlier on, seeing just your colleagues' heads and shoulders. Whereas here at SimplyVideo, we're taking video meetings way beyond that, and you'll see later on just how we can now collaborate via a video meeting and wearable devices on our platform. We offer the ability to bring enterprise video estates together so that devices which do not natively communicate with each other can now do just that. Whilst we're focusing on the use of wearable technology brought into a SimplyVideo call today, it's also key to note that we'll be observing this from our Poly unit, which you can't see right now. I'm sat in a video meeting room in a boardroom. This feeds into the ability to bring those video states together. From boardrooms, laptops, tablet devices, mobile devices, drones, virtual reality, and augmented devices. The list is growing, and this is all possible within SimplyVideo. So Dustin's going to talk through later on the really quick join experience. Devices can join a call through SimplyVideo by simply scanning a QR code or by following a bespoke URL, which is unique to the host's room. The solution that we're utilizing today is the SimplyVideo web platform. Importantly, SimplyVideo allows for the possibility for multiple video meeting rooms, such as the one I'm in today, as well as multiple wearable devices to communicate with each other at the same time in one space. This is something which is only available on the SimplyVideo platform. And today you're going to witness the seamless join from the RealWear HMT-1. What does this mean in terms of return on investment? Well, today, Dustin and I will be demonstrating how a specialist can communicate, guide, and even train an individual on the ground without fiscal or environmental disadvantages associated with traveling. I'll break these costs down later on in more detail, but let's talk more about the device that we're going to be using today, the RealWear HMT-1, which Dustin will be carrying out the remote inspection on. So this is being developed by the amazing minds over at RealWear. The RealWear HMT-1 is a fully rugged wearable device. It's designed to improve productivity and safety of the industrial workers. It's completely hands-free and fully commanded by the voice, available in 12 different languages currently, and again, that number is growing. RealWear also offer the HMT-1Z1, which is an intrinsically safe version of the device that you're going to see Dustin wearing today. It's for using in those potentially explosive gas environments. So very similar device, but put together with very different components. Along with the voice commands, the RealWear HMT-1 has unmatched noise cancellation, which is really useful in those windy outdoor environments. And you'll definitely get a flavor of that later on, as that's definitely what's going on in Newport, Rhode Island. It's also IP66 water resistant to protect against heavy seas or powerful water jets. It's drop proof from 2 meters and fully operational from -20 Celsius all the way through to +50 Celsius. At this point, I'd like to welcome Captain Jonathan Kabak of the spectacular SSV Oliver Hazard Perry to introduce himself and to discuss some of the initiatives that they're running out currently. So over to you, Captain.
Well, good morning, Ben, and thank you for giving us the opportunity to work both with SimplyVideo and V2 Subsea on this exciting initiative. The SSV Oliver Hazard Perry was commissioned in 2015, and she serves as the flagship of the state of Rhode Island, the first ocean-going full-rig ship to be built in the United States in over 100 years. The ship is actively engaged in a variety of empowering experiences to promote personal and professional growth with a vision of building more resilient communities. To date, our heavy focus is in preparing programming for a variety of audiences focused on training people for the maritime industry, the marine trades, and the defense sector, all key industries here in Rhode Island. What you'll notice as Dustin walks through the ship is that she is both highly anachronistic and thoroughly modern. She is a full rig ship, square rigged on all masts. And as you can appreciate, the challenge in operating such a type vessel is a relatively unique experience that can be leveraged to great effect as we build teams and communities that need to work together and communicate effectively. While on deck and down below, she is thoroughly modern with contemporary systems from the engine room to her accommodation spaces, her communications equipment, etc. It is this sort of balance between the highly anachronistic and the thoroughly modern that we enjoy leveraging to great effect here aboard the ship. I look forward to your questions and comments about the ship as Dustin takes us on our tour, but in particular, we are very excited about this technology. As I'm sure you can appreciate, finding the particular individuals that have the requisite knowledge to maintain and operate a square rigger is a unique challenge in this day and age. And sometimes the best expertise lies either overseas or across the continent. And the capacity to send a crew member, let's say, up into the rigging to inspect or evaluate fittings and fixtures and have some of the world's foremost experts weigh in real time is really thrilling. And that sort of led us to be a willing guinea pig, if you would, with today's webinar. So with that, Ben, I'll turn it back over to you. And thank you once again for involving us in this project.
Oh, you're most welcome, Captain Kabak. It's fantastic to have you here, and I know that we'll welcome you back in as we carry out the remote inspection later on, so that you can provide assistance. So we'll just rocket through the last couple of slides, and then we'll move on to what we're all here today to see, which is the remote inspection. But just a little bit about what we're going to be covering off. So I'm based in the north of England. It'll be very little surprise to anyone who's been to where we are, which is Leeds, to hear that we are landlocked. So I would say I'm particularly a novice when it comes down to vessels. Remote inspection is not where my skill set lies. So what we thought we would do is play out a bit of an experiment here, whereby I'm going to be sat here in the north of England. We're going to be guided through a process of a maritime inspection aboard the Oliver Hazard Perry, which is Rhode Island's flagship, as the captain just mentioned there. Ultimately, the process here is to carry out that remote inspection in a low bandwidth environment to see if we can be guided by somebody wearing a wearable around how to actually inspect a vessel and check all the necessary protocols are in place before the vessel launches. So I'm going to sit here as the amateur. I'm going to be trained today by Dustin and Captain Kabak on the other side in Rhode Island. And in doing so, we will take a look at some of the return on investment, some of the stats in a moment's time, some of which are rather shocking as to what this could mean moving forwards. But I talked a little bit there about the use cases for the technology that we're going to be using. So there are two primary use cases for SimplyVideo and augmented reality technology as it stands right now, ultimately boiling down to the two versions of remote collaboration that improves situational awareness. Remote expert means that an untrained frontline worker can be guided through a process by a mentor who's on the other end of a call, which is what we'll definitely be seeing today. Conversely, visual assistance and training means a skilled expert can use a RealWear HMT-1 to remotely present to colleagues, untrained personnel, or inspectors. Again, we're going to put both of these to the test later on. But what we also hinted towards earlier on was that there are significant costs associated with carrying out such an inspection. Now, inspections aside, if there was ever a situation where a vessel was down for a number of days, these are some of the numbers that we've pulled together through our research and what this could ultimately cost. What we want to test is if we could replace flying somebody from the north of England over to Rhode Island to fix a specific part of a vessel, therefore reducing not just all the fiscal costs associated with such an exercise, which includes far more than just the day rates, etc. We're talking about the time associated, the jet lag, and ultimately, as we come out of I guess, a very challenging 18 months with COVID, and we look to, as a global society, build back better, we are looking to ultimately cut down on the carbon footprint associated with flying somebody across the globe also. So hopefully today what we're going to see is that we can remove all of these costs. We can have somebody who's not necessarily a trained professional on site with a headset on, being instructed by a trained professional to fix that problem very, very quickly indeed.
Ben, can I just talk for a little bit?
Indeed, Dustin, yes.
So I want to just talk a little bit about the inspection process as well, because we talked about the cost saving regarding just the remote mentoring aspect, but you can also come up with alternative solutions where you're able to conduct the inspection and do a preliminary assessment. So even if you can't do the entire inspection remotely, if you were to do a class inspection on a vessel, you could knock out a lot of the action items or also pendency items post-inspection. And this will reduce the time that the inspector or the auditor has to go to the vessel. You can do this on shoreside facilities and ports as well. It's a matter of connectivity. With SimplyVideo, we found that the low bandwidth environment and the ease of use with the QR codes, really you can connect with the headset and with the RealWear headset. And so some sort of modification of the inspection process is also possible. It doesn't have to be fully remote. And I think that's groundbreaking. And that's probably the first way that people would get into this.
And that's really key to note as well, Dustin. Thanks for jumping in there. That's definitely things to take into consideration whilst we carry out the remote inspection today. Now, it's time for us to move on and to kick off. So Dustin is going to put the HMT-1 on right now, and he did allude to the fact that he'll be joining via a QR code scan. So the RealWear HMT is completely managed through voice commands. So Dustin will give 3 voice commands to the HMT-1, and then through SimplyVideo, you can join a call through simply scanning a QR code. So he'll give 3 voice commands, which will turn his camera on to scan the QR code, and then he'll join the call. Now on the SimplyVideo platform, on the far side here, I have control over a video meeting room. So what I'm waiting to hear is a knock at the door. When you hear a knock at the door within SimplyVideo, it means that someone has turned up, and there's the knock at the door, and we allow them in. But what we don't want to see is the presentation. So let me take this screen share off right now. And we're going to bring the wearable into the call. And what I'll go ahead and do is spotlight the wearable.
Ben, do you read me?
Loud and clear.
Okay. So everybody, I'm out here on the deck of the Oliver Hazard Perry. I was sitting in the chart room on the aft side of the deck, which is why the lighting wasn't so good. So hopefully you can see a little bit better. So I've got on the RealWear HMT-1 headset, and I was actually able to join the SimplyVideo call through a QR code. If you can see it, if I can get the lighting a little bit better. So the difference with the QR code is the ability to do this. You don't have to type in any passwords. It makes it a lot simpler. So if you were trying to connect from this headset and you had to join via connecting to the Wi-Fi network and then typing in your name and password, it just doesn't really work as well. It's not as simple. And that's why SimplyVideo has been really good. And the ability to kind of go in and out through those QR codes and using the low bandwidth signal has also been really helpful for the process. Ben, you still copy?
Still copy. Could you, Dustin, maybe just talk us through the conditions on board today in terms of the weather?
Okay, so the weather's not too bad. We're here in the summer in the Northern Hemisphere up in New England. We can get hot summers, and we can also get kind of muggy weather similar to where Ben is in the UK. So this morning we had some fog. We had a sunny day the other day, but we're here right in the port of Newport downtown. If you could look around, you'd see a beautiful skyline, but instead today is very cloudy and really miserable, but hopefully that'll burn off. You can see over here we have Fort Adams, which is an old fort that really hugs the mouth of the Narragansett Bay. It's a beautiful spot. It's actually where the Newport Folk Festival is. And I'm here on the tall ship, captained by Captain Kabak, Oliver Hazard Perry. Ben, how's my video feed?
Indeed. Absolutely amazing. Yeah, so we're seeing that in great quality right now. That's something to bear in mind, I guess, with a SimplyVideo call, is that in really high bandwidth environments, calls can go all the way through to 1080p. Now, Dustin's obviously in a harbor today, connected via 4G. So we're still seeing fantastic quality image coming through. Dustin, reading you loud and clear.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Great. Thank you. Yeah. So as you can see, if I had this headset, we can do an inspection process, right? And we can do that for whatever inspection we need. Whether it's our preventative maintenance practice, we can tap into anybody really in the world. Connectivity solutions putting together along with the AR and video feed and video recording is something that could really revolutionize the maritime industry. All right, Ben, why don't we go ahead and start our inspection process? I think you had actually named off some items that we would kind of look through.
Yeah, let's give it a go. So again, let's caveat the fact that whilst I'm over here in the UK, I'm not a specialist around vessels such as this. So Dustin is going to give a thorough overview today. Why don't we start off, Dustin, with the anchor windlass? Okay.
And Captain Kabak, are you still there? You can feel free to chime in or set me straight in any way you see fit. So we're up here at the anchor windlass, which is it's the winch that holds up the anchor, and it uses chain. So you can see it right here. This chain actually goes through, and there's two anchors that go below, the port and starboard anchored on the Oliver Hazard Perry. So if I came up and, as normally a mate would do, comes up and takes a look at the anchor windlass and just does a visual, what they call a visual inspection, just verifying that everything's in good shape, right? You do your checks every once a month or once a quarter. I'm looking at the chain going down. I can see the riding pawl here, right? Test it, look at it, make sure it's in good condition. It's holding the chain up here. I can see the devil's claw. These are two safety devices to make sure the anchors don't set loose. Okay, this is on the starboard anchor right here. This goes below. So you can see also the brake. So this is the brake handle, I believe, right? So that's the friction brake here. I can turn this right or left, and that's how you loosen it up to lower the anchor. I could actually function test it too if I chose, but I'm just looking at the electrical equipment here, making sure there's no exposed wires, checking for safety, right? And this is all being recorded. So as we do it, we can add this to our computer, our CMS system, our computerized maintenance management system, or we can even incorporate it into our health and safety system for our safety management system. So this is being done normally now, and you're writing it down. You're just writing down, I checked it. Right? But you could go through and you could check it and you can add the video and images. And I have both my hands free right now, right? So I can work on this if I need to, and I can record the whole time. And you can also do this for knowledge capture. Checking out my turnbuckle down here. All right, Ben, everything looks in good shape. The capstan looks good. The windlass, maybe we'll move on to the next item.
Sounds great. That looks really good. So thanks for sharing that, Dustin. Could we maybe take a look this time around at the Solus life raft?
Okay.
Just remind me,
are you still with us? Go ahead, Ben.
No, I was just going to say, could you just maybe remind me of Solus? What does that stand for?
So Solus it stands for Safety of Life at Sea. There's a convention, and it basically outlines international standards, what the safety devices are on a ship. So around the world, most vessels and all vessels really should be trying to work to improve life and safety. And Solus standardization makes it so that we're making sure we get the best equipment to save people's lives in case there's an accident or incident. So a Solus life raft, and this is a 25-person life raft. You can see that it's got its launching procedures right there in the back. So if you came on board and you didn't know that you could learn quickly or look at this and it would tell you how to launch. So this is a normal thing. These have to be inspected annually, right? So I can kind of come in here, zoom level 2. So I zoom in a little bit, and you can see, if you can look closely here, I can see the last time this is inspected was in July of 2020. So it's due for an inspection next month. And zoom level 1. You also have the serial number. This is a float-free life raft. So it'll actually inflate and go over the side. I can check the hydrostatic release with the painter. So this is the painter that'll actually inflate. There's a little small charge in there. And if I pull on this long enough or throw it over the side, it'll inflate on its own. We have here a hydrostatic release, so it'll float free. So I'm taking a look at that, making sure it's in good condition. I'm looking at the shackle, and I've kind of completed my inspection, and everything looks good.
Excellent, excellent. So would I be right in thinking that there may be a couple of those on board, or is it just the one?
Yeah, we talked with Captain Kabak earlier, and he told us there are four 25 person life rafts.
Got you.
So we would go through and inspect each one of those.
And hey, Dustin, just talk me through what you just did there in terms of when you were zooming in. You used a voice command and the headset zoomed in on exactly what you wanted to look at.
Okay, so with the RealWear platform on the headset internally, I can use voice commands. All these voice commands are listed on the site, and you get to know them pretty well. They become pretty familiar with them. So if I wanted to zoom in on something, all I have to do is say, zoom level 2, zoom level 3. And that'll zoom in and out, and I don't have to use my hands in any way, and that'll help me kind of gather data a little bit better. Maybe if I wanted to snap a photo or capture something like this, you can see the serial numbers on here. That's something that's important for these serial numbers, the dates, the model number, and you want to keep those because that you got to get that back to the manufacturer to make sure you're getting all the right equipment. So, and then I can go back and go zoom level 1, and then I'm able to kind of zoom in and zoom out. I can also adjust. You can't really see right now, but I can also adjust the camera without adjusting my head, and that allows me to work maybe and keep my ergonomics in like awkward positions. For example, if you were trying to kind of record something when you were squatting down and you didn't want to keep your head tilted to the side because it would start to hurt, you can actually take the camera on the side and do it manually so you can keep your head in a more ergonomic position. So there's really, the more we've gotten to use this, the more comfortable I've gotten with it, and it's really helped out.
Yeah, I bet. So I believe the next one on the list, Dustin, we're heading to a storage bay for immersion suits.
Yep. So we're walking down the port side of the vessel now, right? And as we come back, you can kind of see the pathway here. It's free and clear. We're also just kind of looking around on our inspection, checking everything. Everything's in good order. We don't see any safety items or concerns. And then we're just going to go through and look at the storage locker, right? So here's where it says immersion suits. So this is Stenson, so you know. Immersion suits are they're basically a flotation device and a warmth device. They go around you. They call them Gumby suits. And essentially, what you do is you put those on, and they keep you safe. You can see the kind of drawing and the diagram on this. So it has the donning instructions, and these need to be checked. And if you ever had to go over the side, you want to make sure you have one of these on. And in the U.S., I believe it's above like 32 degrees north. All vessels that of a certain size that go out to sea have to have these. So basically, every merchant ship has this. You want to make sure you have the right size. You check them I think you take them out every quarter. Things you got to do are like wax the zippers, make sure they're watertight. And part of your training to go to sea, SCCW and basic safety training is to put these on and make sure you're comfortable being in the water. I'm not going to take these out just so we don't mess up the vessel too much because the captain was nice enough to have us on board. But basically, you roll these things out and you put them on. They're almost like a wetsuit. That's how I'd call them. And again, you can see here that these are both U.S. Coast Guard approved and SOLAS approved, and they have the sizes and they tell you how to put them on. You can see the diagram there. Ben, how's my video feed? Does everything look okay? You getting all that?
All good, all clear, very clear.
Okay, yeah, everything looks good.
That's great. I can read everything on those suits from where I am. Hoping the audience can see the same as well. But yeah, very, very clear indeed. Excellent.
I can hear on the distance. You can hear that everyone's sounding the signals. The vessels are all cruising along here in the fog, and they're all sounding.
Oh wow! So that's an interesting point, Dustin, because we didn't actually hear that. And I think what's also interesting is that whilst every now and again we're getting a little bit of noise around the wind, it probably in comparison to what's going on the boat, it's incredibly quiet. I think the reason for that is that RealWear have built into the headsets, more so the boom arm that sticks out to the front, there are noise cancelling microphones in there. So that's why, even though you're stood aboard glorious vessel today, probably in the middle of fog and a little windy, we can hear very, very little. And that's absolutely amazing shot.
If you could hear what I hear right now, you'd hear some horns in the background from navigation, and you would also hear some fans going on, some exhaust fans.
Wow.
So yeah, that's been really helpful. And you can actually, we've used these things a few times in the engine room where it's really loud, and you can actually hear and communicate really well. So it's very helpful on SimplyVideo.
Excellent, excellent. So I can see now that you're outside fire station number 2.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so I'll hand over to you, Dustin.
All right, so this is a fire station, right? All vessels must have firefighting and control devices. So this is a 1.5-inch fire line coming out. And on the ship's plans, on the fire and safety plan, there'll be there'll be a location where each one is. So that's a spanner wrench, right? It comes back to a valve. So I just want to check all this, make sure it's in good condition, make sure it does have the spanner wrench. I'm going to check the line. I actually don't know what these things are made of. I think they're like this type of line, this type of fire hose. There's some plastic ones, and then there's this kind too. These are the better kind, but I don't know actually what they're made of. And then you've got a vary nozzle up here. You can basically rotate it for different spray patterns. So I want to check that out too. I'm just looking at the connections and the condition of the fire station. I want to make sure there's no leaks, right? I want to come down here. I want to check everything. And you can tell that they do good maintenance on here and they're taking care of it. I can see there's limited oxidation. I can see that it's all labeled. You can see it's labeled as a fire line, so no one's trying to do anything with it or use it for plumbing or anything like that. So yeah, this looks in good condition.
That's looking really strong. Really, really good, Dustin. So next we're looking to head to the fast rescue craft. Okay.
Yeah. So they actually have 2 fast rescue crafts on the Oliver Hazard Perry. I wanted to use to go back to the one on the stern just because I thought it was pretty interesting. It's on the aft. It's actually I thought it was gravity based at first, but I can see there's either electric or hydraulic wings here. It's electric. So this is a davit, right? So this is lower. This is a fast rescue craft, right? Or it could even just be used as a dinghy for the sailing vessel. So if they anchor, they can take it down. So what we have here is we have what they call a davit. This davit kind of goes out and it holds it up. So I can also, what I want to do with this, because it's lifting, it's a lifting appliance, and there's some lifting gear. I want to make sure this is in good condition because it can fall, right? So I can zoom in here with the headset, zoom level 2, zoom level 3. So that's the master. I think they call that a master ring or a D ring. And this is all stainless, which is really high dollar, nice stuff. There's a pelican hook there. It's got its own latch safe. I'm looking at it now. I can see it's in decent condition. I can see all the stainless gear is looking good. It comes down. I got some nylon straps. I want to check those shackles down there. You can see them. I'll look at the other one. Zoom. So I'm looking at all this, making sure it's in good condition. It looks good. We can see the 3-centimeter radar domes enclosed because we're on a sailing vessel, so it's not going up on the mast. I'm just inspecting the other side of the bridle as well. I'm looking at the fast rescue craft. Yeah, it looks all good. I don't see any signs that it's going to fall, or I don't see any conditions. I don't see any lifting gear in bad condition. So I think we're good. Zoom level 1.
Excellent. Captain Kabak, how are we doing so far? Is there anything that you would want to see in particular that we've missed out on our journey so far?
No, I mean, I think this is a great resource. I'm excited. Again, I want to put Dustin in a harness and get him climbing up in the rigging to take a look at some of the gear up there. We'll have to save that for another time, I guess.
Yeah, we'll get our good friend Tommy Loffer over here, the sailor from RealWear, the pro, to get up there.
Absolutely, yeah, we'll get him out. It'll have to be, I think, maybe a nicer day so we can get a view of the Newport Bridge. Can't see that today, that's for sure.
Make it a nice windy day. Captain, you were talking a little bit about, I just wanted to show everybody some of the nice woodwork they have on this vessel, because I've been here a few times before, and it's just absolutely stunning. The ship itself and the idea that it's a training platform used for sailing, and then also for modernization, training our workforce here for the maritime industry is just I always appreciate this like woodwork. You can see this varnish and how beautiful the wheel is. So they do a really good job over here.
If you want to share sort of how that woodwork, hides some of the technology and show folks the engine controls there as well. One of the things that I think is really cool about the wearable is that you can sort of read the engine gauges. You can look at all that information in real time in the box.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll go ahead and lift this up. So we have like an older helm here, so you can see we've got a magnetic compass, right? So we've got the binnacle over there that you would use just like you would 100, 200 years ago, and you're steering by magnetic compass. But below this chest, this beautifully varnished chest with the Oliver Hazard Perry logo, if I can lift this thing up, right? So you actually have a modernized engine control system. So you can actually use all of this equipment, and you can use it in a modern way, such as it looks like here, Captain, these are your thruster controls. Is that for your prop?
Right,
and you've got your engine controls here. So this is it looks like we got a couple Caterpillar engines here. These are feedbacks. This is the port one. So you can see it's labeled here. So that's the port engine. So I'm assuming it looks like we have a port and starboard over here. So I'm just going to go ahead and go through some of the menus like we would do, right? So if I was navigating this vessel or driving, sometimes they'd throw a fault or you have a problem. Zoom level 2. Right, so I'm going through it and I'm looking at the RPMs. And in real time, you can troubleshoot this with the OEM. So if like we had a really strong mechanic in-house, if the Oliver Hazard Perry master mechanic, the person, the engineer, the chief engineer, maybe he's offshore, maybe he's in the office, and I've got a problem, I can use the wearable device to show that person, him or her, what's going on. You can see I can look at the oil pressure here. If you can read this, I got the coolant temp. So in real time, with using my hands, I can look at the temperature of the engine. And I'm getting all this feedback, and this is outside. So there's some cybersecurity things here as well. You can actually troubleshoot with maybe third party or with the OEM, and you don't have to go in the ship system. There's some negative things if you start allowing people to get into your engine control systems. And as I scroll through these menus, I'm able to get all this. And I think so. Here's also the current total, so you can see all the trip hours. You can document this, right? Like this would be a really good way to just even document, like for your engineering and for your just for your records to get a total. You can go into the system and get the total hours. But I could snap a picture with this or use this information to update like my total loads. You could do this after your voyage. You could do it on the, you're supposed to do a report every day at noon. They call it the noon report, which probably the captain's doing. And when he goes out to sea, he's doing the noon report to see how many hours, how much fuel he used. And this is all helpful information. And the idea that you can kind of pass it on is, we also got here the software version, the username and all the equipment. So this tells us like what we have and what we can work with. Now we're back to the main menu. So again, I think this highlights some of the things that I think are really cool, which is the idea of using, old time sailing along with the new, most modern equipment and the modern solutions. And I think that's super cool.
So Dustin, just before you shut that up, I think there was a really good example here of where someone like myself who didn't understand maybe some of those, some of the things that were on the dials on the readers. So we have a tool within SimplyVideo whereby I can actually take a photo of what you're seeing, and then I can annotate onto that photo what I want you to talk me through. So I can actually do this in real time and show the audience whilst I'm doing it as well. So what I'm going to go ahead and do first off, if you could just lean in, that's great. Thank you. Is I'm going to take a shot. If I'm happy with that shot, I'm now going to share it into the call. And whilst this image is going to come through on your screens, and everyone at home or in the office or at their offices at home will be able to see this right now. Dustin, who's wearing the HMT-1, is also going to see this in his viewfinder. Is that correct, Dustin?
Yes, I can actually see that now. And with the viewfinder and the HMT-1 headset, there's another really interesting feature is I can see the call. I can also see what I see, and you can do that by verbal commands. So right now I'm able to see what Ben pulled up, and I can get feedback as I work. So go ahead and tell me what you want me to look at, Ben. Sure.
So what I'm going to do, I'll choose a yellow. Now, I've got to be honest, I don't know what this whole thing is here. So I've just drawn a circle around a couple of gauges by the looks of things. But Dustin, can you see what I've done? Can you talk me through that?
Yeah, I can talk you through it. I guess one of those things I can see pretty clearly, know what it is, and the other one I might have to refer to the captain. So we're on the Caterpillar engine main control for the port side. And I see what you've circled shows the RPMs. So one thing is the rotations per minute of the engine. So you want to keep an eye on that and know if something goes wrong, the RPMs can go up or go down. You could be giving it commands coming stuck. So it's just a data indicator. And that there's also temperature. So the engines usually start out cold. You want to warm them up, and then they run at a certain temperature. They generally correlate with the amount of like RPMs you have or how much load you give it. Think about revving up your car engine, and that's really important because you don't want it to overheat, right? You crack the main block just like a car. And then the other one is pressure. I don't know if that's fuel pressure or if that's air pressure. Cav, do you know? I think it's probably the start air pressure.
So I think that's it's probably oil pressure. If I'm reading the gauge correctly, I'd have to go run up there and take a peek.
Yeah.
Lean in a little bit,
it says pressure. Zoom level 2.
Transmission oil. Transmission.
Transmission. There you go. Yeah, you need you need the transmission zoom level 1. Zoom level 1. You need the transmission pressure because that's what actually cools the engine. So if you were to break that and you didn't have any pressure for your transmission, the engine could overheat and break. So you want to basically shut it down immediately. So it's just another data indicator. Ben, is that clear? Did that make sense?
Absolutely. That's fascinating to see, and I guess for us all to collaborate there on the spot as well to understand exactly what that is, and put it out to our audience as well. So nicely done.
Okay. I guess do you have anything else you want me to look at? I think we've inspected we've completed our list of inspection, and we can all document this too. If this was an actual inspection on the vessel, we could document that and basically save it for, use it so that maybe we could reduce the amount of time we spent or the amount of maintenance of people on board. So that's what we talked about before, about maybe doing a preliminary inspection with the headset or the actual entire inspection.
Mm-hmm. And I think that feeds into maybe something you were discussing earlier on as well about standardizing processes, training processes even. So with one of these walkarounds, we could capture this through recording the session. If it was standardized, you could forward this on to new trainees. Is that something that you see as being viable?
I see this as an amazing way to capture knowledge. So if we just recorded that inspection, and we did record that, so that's being recorded on the SimplyVideo platform, we can store that data, and then if we get a new crew member on board, they can actually review that. Maybe they're going to be doing an inspection of the anchor windlass, and then you could look at that and review it, and then they would learn something, and that could be captured forever. You could capture pretty much every inspection, and then you could see also faults over time. So I really see the platform of the RealWear headset SimplyVideo solution, recording video and knowledge transfer is just an amazing application. It just can go across the industry in a way that that I think could just change everything.
That's amazing to hear, Dustin. Well, listen, thank you so much for doing the walk around and for really teaching me about 50 different things that I didn't know before today's session. So, hey, who knows, maybe I'll be out there once this is all over in Newport and I can carry one out for myself. Might be a bit optimistic, but
it's usually a little bit better weather in summer. I thought we were going to have a good one.
Hey, I think this is added to the atmosphere, so all looking good. All looking good. So, right. Dustin, why don't you join us back on your computer? Do you want to just show the audience how you would leave the call from the HMT, and I'll put Captain Kabak on the spot whilst you're getting back to your computer.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a voice command, and that's going to terminate. I won't say the whole thing because I'll just do it. But essentially, I'm going to close everything down, and that'll also make sure that I'm not using any connectivity. It'll stop recording. So I'll see you guys on the computer. Terminate call. Terminate call.
Well, that was absolutely brilliant. And just whilst we wait for Dustin to make his way back to his computer, I thought this would be a good time, maybe, Captain, for you and I to have a quick heads up as to what we've carried out there. Mainly from your perspective, I guess you've maybe seen a couple of test runs of Dustin doing this, but was there anything that particularly stood out to you from today's inspection that you could see maybe further down the line being put to use?
You know, universally, I just think I was just sitting here going, there's an old sea shanty about an old captain that didn't like to ever go up on deck. You know, he would give commands and sort of let things happen, and how technology has allowed that to almost happen in real time. I was just astounded by the quality of the video, the lack of lag time. I mean, it is really a powerful tool, and really where I see it, you know, in our industry where we do a tremendous amount of new apprentice and employee training, right? You know, that traditional apprenticeship where you're working with somebody who's new to it and doesn't maybe know what they're talking about or what they're looking at, and you're in two different sections of the ship, or, you know, in a industrial facility and you're two ends of a giant system. And if I have a laptop and I send my apprentice and I say, go to this spot and put the headset on and show me what you're looking at, I mean, talk about a powerful tool. You know, a picture is always worth 1,000 words. And to not have to go through a walkie-talkie and say, okay, well, what are you looking at? Describe it for me, you know, or send me a picture on your phone. But in real time to see what that other person is looking at. I mean, I think the efficiencies provided by this technology are incredible and really, really powerful. So I'm excited about seeing how we can maybe get a headset to test drive a little bit. in particular for some of the rigging inspection that we have to do.
Excellent stuff. Well, as Dustin said, we'll have to put you in touch with our good friend Tommy Loughborough at RealWear, see what we can do. That's great to hear. That's great to hear, because I guess that was the test, really, is to see if these plans could actually be used further down the line. Dustin, how was that for you in terms of communication? Could you hear us clearly? Was there anything that didn't necessarily work for you at all, or anything you think could have gone better?
I thought that went pretty well. I'm always, when I'm wearing the headset, I'm always conscious and trying to get feedback on how the video is and if the communication is going well. And I, from my perspective, it went pretty well. And yeah, I thought it was good. And I just want to second what Captain Kabak said, is that normally when we do these things, we use radios. So we're up on the front using radios, describing the way everything's going. You get pretty good at it, but the idea that you can have video and start to use that video and incorporate that video, I think just has like massive effects, positive effects for health and safety, and also for maintenance. So it's good.
I would say so.
I think it was well. How was it from your end? The video was okay?
Yeah, video looked great. I think what would be good to educate the audience on a little bit is that there were certain points where maybe there was a bandwidth dip and you just saw a slight pixelation, but it was momentary at best. And what happens in those situations if you do hit an area of low bandwidth is the SimplyVideo application on the headset will compress down as much as possible with regards to bandwidth, so you can still stream through, still get a connection. And then again, if it hits the area of high bandwidth, you get that image back exactly where it was before. So it was really interesting to see all the differences, all the variances, but nevertheless, the image consistently was very strong and the audio was very strong as well, even though I could every now and again just hear a bit of the wind from Rhode Island, which was nice. Good stuff. Okay, so what would you say in terms of key goals from today and what we've accomplished? What would you say is the key accomplishment from today's session?
The ability to conduct an inspection remotely using video and a connected solution for a safety inspection and for troubleshooting. I think this is the use case that we've been working on, and I think this proves that it can be done in real time. You can do it in an offline way with SimplyVideo, record it, but you can also together several stakeholders. So I don't know, I'm sure Ben's mentioned this, but we've done this before, and we put in multiple people across the country and the world in these videos, and we're able to show everybody so that everyone's in real time able to get feedback. And I think that really is, the contracts are structured. So there's a lot of stakeholders with ship inspections. And if you need it, you could have several of those stakeholders, like I said, such as classification society, the flag state inspector, the captain, the shoreside management, all overseeing an operation. And that can be done for inspection, but it can also be done during a live project or during a full-on operation. So in the future, I see one of the things we see, or from V2 Subsea's perspective, what we see is the ability to build out situational awareness for things like heavy lift, subsea training and operations. So we work with some underwater equipment that there's some training opportunities for that. And as you said before, with drones, improving situational awareness, it's just a really good platform. And the ability to compress low bandwidth is it's really a game changer. It's what has to be, because the real barrier is connectivity, and that cost goes higher, like a lot, as you build out. So we're finding the best solutions and the right fit for the right situation.
I think you raised a point there, Dustin, that was really good about the low bandwidth mode. And we've had a conversation in low bandwidth mode before, haven't we, I guess? But where do you see that could be beneficial, particularly in the world of maritime?
Below decks. So if in the engine room, in the machinery spaces, there's a real challenge. It can be a real challenge. It's improving every day. And you really got two variables there. You got and
I feel like we might have just had a momentary blip from Dustin. Maybe his battery's just gone down slightly.
The ability to compress. So
I will just wait for Dustin to see if
you don't compress, you need to really put out a lot of bandwidth.
Dustin, are you back with us?
I think so. I'm going to shut down my video just in case.
Sure.
Can you hear me?
Sure. Yeah, got you. Okay, sorry, Dustin. No, don't worry about it. We just lost a little bit there, but just around low bandwidth, and I think this is a good time for us to move on to the Q&A section for today's session. What I would say is that any further questions, feel free to drop them into the chat box, and we'll look to try and answer those in real time. Now, through the webinar, we have had a number of questions, and I think that the first one there is quite appropriate given what you've just said, and that is, what does low bandwidth mean? What's the lowest bandwidth a call can go? So this is with regards to the SimplyVideo platform. I don't mind taking the lead on this one. So the SimplyVideo platform can take calls all the way through to 1080p, but in those low bandwidth environments, we can now take calls down as low as 100 kilobits per second, which is incredibly low. That is obviously one of the ways that you can have two-way conversations. Other platforms don't necessarily go to that level, which is a key thing to note. Can I show? Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, from the operations perspective, low bandwidth is what I would call the equivalent of like where you've got your cell phone and you have 5 bars maybe, or you've got a lot of signal, you know, close to antenna. But if you go farther out, or if you go down in the basement, maybe you're having trouble getting a signal. And in the metal and on ships or in facilities, you tend to get into those spaces where you're not, or farther at sea also, you're not getting the signal as well. And so the video is not going to work as well. There are solutions that you can incorporate. The more bandwidth you need to put out, so on that variable, the more bandwidth you need to put out, there's a higher cost. So the ability with SimplyVideo to lower that bandwidth really allows you to work in some of those cramped spaces. So you're kind of pushing the edge. It's good. It's been really good. We've been able to do a lot of shipboard inspections, even below the decks.
Thanks for that, Dustin. Much appreciated. Now, there's a question which has come through, which we didn't quite put to test during the demonstration today. It's around, can I get a multiple view of one person? So I think the question there is, if someone's got the wearable on, could we maybe get a camera viewing that individual from another perspective? The reason we didn't carry that out today, I believe you were tethered to your 4G phone. Is that correct? Basically you need connectivity on those different solutions. So at V2 Subsea, we've also been working on that, and I think that's a really interesting topic. Like I said before, with heavy lift, so we've done a couple operations using SimplyVideo where we can build out like a higher connected solution and use different viewpoints for an operation. So I worked on doing offshore construction for several years, and when you do a heavy lift or when you're doing an operation with a crane, you're using what they call CCTV, which is a wired solution, so that the crane operator can get feedback, really, if they're lifting something heavy, so they don't hit, right? They don't want to bang the thing they're picking up, or they don't want to damage it. The idea that you could use an IoT solution, you could use cameras and set everything up without hard wires for things like heavy lift of ships. They move yachts here for offshore wind. There's a lot of opportunity with that. And you can do that with SimplyVideo, and we have done that. We've done that a few times, and it's worked out well. There's different solutions as you go up. Absolutely. No, that's good to hear, Dustin. One of the things that I know I've tried when I would carrying out demonstrations on sites, particularly in factories and warehouses, I've had the headset above my head, and then I've had on a tripod behind me my cell phone to give that second perspective and see what I see from a slightly different angle. Mainly so I guess the person on the far end could almost critique the way in which I was carrying out the task and give me advice, maybe the amount of pressure to apply to something, etc. That's how it's being utilized from my end as well.
On your website, Ben, Chris actually built it out where they were doing the equivalent of working on an electrical control panel, and he puts up a second video, and I think that is a really strong use case too for electrical work. So that way, if, like, let's say you had a journeyman electrician, a person who had a decent amount of experience, but maybe someone else could watch and make sure they're using the right technique. That's a very dangerous job to open up a control panel, especially at higher voltage. So if you go to the SimplyVideo website, you'll see that they have a second video showing the workers. So the worker has the AR headset, and then there's a second video showing them. And I think there is a lot of opportunity to improve safety with electrical work as well.
I would totally agree. I'm going to ask you one more question, Dustin, just before we move on to roundup for today. It's a question from YouTube. It says, what is the headset using, 4G or Wi-Fi? I guess that is because the vessel's currently in dock. Maybe there's Wi-Fi, but what are you using today?
using you can use anything. You could use the connectivity of a hotspot for your phone. You can try that. The video feed's different with some Wi-Fi, so it just depends on what the Wi-Fi is today. But today we're using a connected Wi-Fi device.
Fantastic, fantastic. Excellent stuff. Well, there's still lots more questions coming through. I'll do my very best to get back to all of those on email towards the end of today. But on that note, and staying in contact with SimplyVideo and V2 Subsea, we've got a find out more section here. If you want to open your camera up and take a snap or to scan the QR code, it will take you to a landing page. If you'd like more information on this webinar and SimplyVideo, please do follow the following link or scan the QR code. Alternatively, and Dustin just hinted towards it there, we do have a website, which is simplyvideo.io, where we have additional information.
And I would just say too, Ben, check out our website at V2 Subsea. We're doing a lot of really cool things with IoT devices, underwater inspection, and on-deck inspection for maritime and the blue economy. And if you want to learn more about the solutions and kind of what's possible to being built, including SimplyVideo, including the RealWear HMT, give us an email or connect with us, and we can help you build out a solution that's right for your operation and your company.
Excellent work. Well, Dustin, thank you ever so much for your time today. So that's Dustin Varnell at V2 Subsea, who today has conducted a vessel inspection, a world first, from 3,500 miles away from myself here in the UK. Also want to say a massive thanks to Captain Jonathan Kabak and Jen from the SSV Oliver Hazard Perry for allowing us to use your wonderful vessel to tell us about some of the fantastic initiatives you're running at the moment. Hopefully when we head out to Rhode Island, we'll come and we'll share a beer with your good selves. But from us here at SimplyVideo, from Dustin at V2 Subsea, and from Captain Kabak on the Oliver Hazard Perry, want to wish you all a very good morning, good afternoon, and stay safe and stay healthy. Thank you all.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Dustin.
See you, bud.
Take care.